Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge etc. From Mailroom to Corner Office, A Banker's Journey by Dr. R. Srinivasan. Cover page of the book. Today, that is 5th August 2025, I am sharing episode number 16. YouTube link of episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and episode 4, episode 5, episode 6, episode 7, episode 8, episode 9, episode 10, episode 11, episode 12, episode 13, episode 14, and episode 15. Back to banking. New Bank of India, New Delhi. The chapter First Leadership Opportunity, New Bank of India is completed. Now next chapter is Allahabad Bank, Kolkata. Allahabad Bank, Kolkata. The transfer from New Bank to Allahabad Bank was in September 1982. The institution is the oldest bank in India, originally founded in April 1865 by the British. After a change of ownership in 1920, the bank's head office came to Kolkata. It was one among the 14 banks that were nationalized in 1969. Apart from Imperial Bank of India, which was the name of the present-day State Bank of India, this was the only bank that continued to have pensionary benefit to its employees who were on their rolls at the time of nationalization. Following the government's takeover of the bank and in keeping with the then prevalent labor situation in West Bengal with a communist government at the helm, the bank was also having its share of labor problems that greatly affected its growth. Although I accepted my appointment as the CMD, I had lot of doubt and hesitation before going to Kolkata. I consulted my friends to gain confidence. There was one joint secretary in the banking division who was on the board of New Bank of India, a Mr. Ashok Kumar. He gave me lot of encouragement. He said that the bank was essentially a good company but had become very sleepy. Management and employees were lethargic and needed someone to make a difference. He said that I would succeed and should not hesitate to go ahead with all enthusiasm. My first day as chairman of Allahabad Bank will always remain an unforgettable experience. The head office was and still is at 2 Netaji Bose Road, Kolkata, just opposite the Reserve Bank of India. Within a very short walking distance is the Writers' Building, which is the secretariat of the West Bengal government. After going through the formalities of taking my seat, I wanted to tour the head office. While many of the important departments of the HO were in the same building, for want of space, some were located at different places within the city. There was a security officer, Mr. Shankar Sen, who was an engineer by qualification. He was also in charge of the premises department of the bank. He accompanied me when I went around the premises. Shankar Sen was ably assisted by Amalendu Chakraborty, who was from the services and who ran the security department effectively. I utilized the engineering skills of Shankar Sen to prepare a new emblem for Allahabad Bank, which was arranging the letters A and B together to form the bank's logo. A revised version went through several layers of scrutiny and was finally approved by the board, and it came into existence. This is still in use today and has become very popular among the clients of the bank and the general public. I was shocked beyond words when I found that on every wall of the bank, even inside the head office, Many posters of the employees union were pasted without even an inch of blank space between them. As soon as the staff heard that the chairman was on his rounds, many employees, including their union leaders, came to see me. I was appalled to see the state of the bank's physical condition. I asked why there were so many posters and why even outdated posters were still on the walls. One of the union leaders volunteered to explain. He said that their job was to paste over the posters and not to remove them. I called a sweeper who was around and asked him to remove the posters. He did not respond and was not willing to touch them as he was afraid of the union. I was in a big dilemma. What to do if your instructions are not followed? I mustered my courage and asked a peon to fetch me a stool to stand on along with a bucket of water. This was readily obliged. I got up on the stool and started spraying and splashing water on the posters so that removing them would become easier. Immediately a few peons and the sweeper came forward and pleaded that as chairman I should not do this job. I told them that as no one was prepared to remove the posters, I had to do it myself. I explained that the walls did not belong to the union and they had no right to disfigure them like they had. I would have no objection to discuss any grievance of the employees in a peaceful atmosphere. They asked me to go back to my office and said that they would clean up the entire walls of the bank. Within 2 hours, the bank looked entirely different from what it looked when I walked in. I was very impressed. In the evening, I asked the union leaders to meet me and they were happy to do so. I thanked them for giving the bank a fresh look and assured them that I would take care of their grievances but that they should never again stick any posters anywhere in the bank again. I gave them a specific space with portable stand on which they could paste their posters only after they found that the management had not dealt with their grievance in a reasonable time. This was agreed. In the evening, I returned home a very satisfied man. The bank's chairman's residence was in Alipur on a 2.5 acre plot of land. It was a huge colonial building that could easily accommodate a family of 20 or more people. We are a family of 5 and our dog, and so the building was very luxurious. It had a swimming pool, a huge lawn, a badminton court, garages for cars, and servant quarters, etc. A few years before I joined the company, they had carved out space for accommodating the Alipur branch of the bank's currency chest, and the staff training college. At that time, they had closed the swimming pool. You can imagine how big the place must have been. For any aspirant for the bank's chairman's post, this residence still remains a great attraction. However, the premises were getting some repairs done and a fresh coat of paint was in progress since there was no one living there for some time after my predecessors. Mr. Amitabh Ghosh left to join RBI as a deputy governor. Therefore, our family was compelled to stay in a double room in the Park Hotel for a few days. This accommodation was on the way to the official residence of the chairman and his office. During the initial days, important clients of the bank visited the chairman to introduce themselves and talk about their business. I cultivated a practice of getting a background paper from the office about the persons who had made appointments to meet me. These background papers were to supply facts and figures of the visitor's business, and the office was strictly told not to give their opinion on them, either good or bad. This helped me a lot during my conversations. After a couple of days of stay in the hotel, we decided to move into the house and go out for some food. Cooking gas was in short supply at that time and the residents did not have gas to start our kitchen. One day when I was in a meeting with a client who was considered to be an important man, my wife called to say that if I could arrange for a gas cylinder, we could get on with our usual life in the house. I told her that we did not need to make any special effort to get the gas and we could continue to eat out. In the evening, when I returned home, the servant in the house provided by the bank was all smiles and said that gas cylinder had arrived. I asked him how it happened, and he replied that the important man I had been speaking to that day had arranged it. I was taken aback. The man had overheard my conversations with my wife on phone and had taken it upon himself to be helpful. I asked the servant why he had accepted the gas from this source, and he said that this supplier was always helpful to all my predecessors in many ways. Without losing my temper at the servant boy, I asked him to bring out the cylinder and keep it outside the door of the house but within the compound. I advised him never to accept any gift from anyone. I went inside and called the gentleman and thanked him for his thoughtful help, but requested him to immediately send someone and take back the cylinder. Although initially he tried to convince me that after I get a gas cylinder of my own, in due course I could return his contributions to my family. He realized that I was the wrong guy. He arranged to take back his magnanimous addition to my kitchen. Thus began our life in the house, the like of which I have never seen or lived in either before or after until this date. Thanks to his proximity to the senior level executives in the bank, this person with the enormous tendency to help enjoyed a privilege of getting whatever he wanted. He had the liberty of not repaying loans as agreed by him while borrowing, and his account would normally be highly irregular. He was also enjoying huge credit facilities. He was running an export oriented jute mill, and I used to jocularly tell people that this industrialist ran a mill and so specialized in speaking jute lies. A few weeks later, it came to my attention that his account was so irregular that the GM in charge of the advances portfolio became nervous that he could be held responsible. I called the chief manager in charge of advances on Mr. V.M. Swami and asked him for the facts. He also confirmed the situation. I asked Mr. Swami whether he was periodically signing balance confirmation and acknowledgement of debt. He went to check with the branch concerned and came back to me to say that the limitation in the account was expiring in 10 days. The bank was not successful in obtaining the person's signature. He was dodging the sue but kept the branch in good humor by telling them that he would go to head office and sign all the required documents. Then he would come to HO but not to sign the paper but for balance confirmations or acknowledged debt. I quietly told Mr. Swami to call the bank's lawyer and asked him to file a case for recovery of dues. Lawyer said that he would do it, but once the case was filed, the recovery would take its own time, leaving the borrower free to continue with what he was doing. An idea came to my mind. I asked the lawyer to file a criminal case against the borrower for breach of contract. For filing criminal case, there was no need for stamp duty. Additionally, once a civil suit is filed, we cannot thereafter file a criminal case, but not vice versa. As soon as the lawyer's notice telling him of the bank's intention to file a criminal case against him reached him, the man came running to see us. I assured him that we will withdraw the proposed criminal complaint if he paid a sizable sum in repayment and signed all renewal documents and acknowledgement of debt. He paid rupees 1 crore within a few hours and signed all the papers. Thereafter, people in the advances departments were feeling greatly relieved. These incidents also made the bank check all loan documents and ensure that no case is time barred by the law of limitation. Mr. Swami, whom every one of my predecessors and I considered a live wire, was very quick in his work. He used to do the duties of 5 or 6 officers. He had all the necessary information about borrowers at his fingertips, and he was indispensable at the time of yearly closing of accounts and finalizing the balance sheet. He had been in the advances department for more than a decade, and that gave him a strong grip on the affairs. He knew the securities available in borrower's account, and that would help in making provisions at the time of final accounts. I heard some casual remark from some officers who were jealous of Swami, alleging that Like my predecessors, I too would depend on him and could not work without him. Next day I called Swami to my room and told him that I was transferring him to Bombay as zonal manager. He was taken aback. He said that he could be transferred to any other department in the head office as he felt that his lack of branch experience would stand in the way of his proper functioning in the role. I encouraged him by saying that I visited Bombay often and would personally guide him, and that in his own interest he should accept the transfer. He took the advice and moved out. As zonal manager, he did very well, much beyond our expectations, and earned quick promotions. He finally retired as general manager advances. Unfortunately, he is no more. Until the end, he is grateful for my transferring him out of HO. Equally unfortunate too is that the borrower who occupied lot of earlier paragraphs also passed away after my leaving Allahabad Bank. It was surprising to hear that before he died, he had donated a guest house in Tirumala for the conveniences of pilgrims to Tirupati. During one of my visits to the temple town, I saw the guest house in which a huge photograph of his wife was adorning a wall. Normally in these places, only the photos of Lord Balaji and his consort adorn the walls. My first task in Allahabad Bank was to restore discipline, make the staff attend the office on time and remain in their seats during office hours. Also, the priority was to make the general public notice the change in the management of the bank. To achieve this, I gave strict instructions that anyone reaching office later than 10 minutes after the opening time should be marked as late, and if he or she does so once more in that month, they would lose half day's leave. At the stroke of 10 or the hour of the opening of the office, the attendance register would be moved to the manager's desk and the latecomer should go to the managers to sign in. At the, at the head office, I stationed myself at the main entrance. People who arrived late and who could see me from a distance simply went back home and took a day's leave. This dramatically changed the situation. To gain the attention and confidence of the general public, I had asked the bank's publicity department to select one of the most important sites in the city for erecting a billboard and advertise on it. The first advertisement did not say much. It simply read Allahabad Bank, bankers to the people of Calcutta, the city of intellectuals. This soon became the talk of the town. People loved to be called intellectuals. After some time, the second advertisement ran out like this: whenever you think of money, see us, Allahabad Bank. At the left hand bottom corner, I had added with apologies to Jensen and Nicholson. Jensen and Nicholson, one of the bank's clients, were makers of pens and used to advertise with the slogan, whenever you see color, think of us. They were happy that they too got advertisement at the bank's expenses. I made it a practice to participate in every family function of my staff to which I was invited. Particularly in cases of any untoward events in their families, I never waited for an invitation. I never missed any funeral in the family of my staff, and this endeared me to them. Incidentally, let me mention that I also attended all functions at the house of the All India Union leader Tarakasya Chakraborty. I remember going there when he lost his mother in the evening when heavy rain lashed the city. The balancing of books was a neglected area, and finalizing the accounts and bringing out the balance sheet of the bank was nobody's responsibility. For the year that ended on December 31, the balance sheet used to be brought out sometime towards the end of August next year. In the preliminary years of my service at Allahabad Bank, year closing was always on December 31. Subsequently, it was changed to March 31, a practice that has come to stay. Having taken over as chairman and managing director in September 1982, it gave me a very short amount of time to address this year-end issue. I was fully aware that I could never achieve the desired result without the active involvement of all my staff at all levels. I decided to introduce a system of recognizing and honoring those who rose up to the expectations in completing the annual closing work and submitting the closing returns as soon as possible after the date of closing. I earmarked the distinctive categories of prices for the branches, and the branches were classified as metropolitan, urban, semi-urban, and rural. Whoever was able to reach their annual closing returns first to head office was given the first prize, and then the second and the third were awarded accordingly. The competition began and the rush for prizes started, and it had to be seen to be believed. In their anxiety to see that they do not miss the chance of a prize, some even made it to the chairman's residence just past midnight when the date changed to hand over the returns and secure an acknowledgement. I was thrilled that the scheme had worked this wonder. People who were there in the bank before I joined were surprised at how the bank had become so suddenly active. Almost 95% or more of the branches would have submitted the closing return on the very first working day of the new financial year, and the rest within 3 or 4 days thereafter. We are in a position to declare the board financial results of the year gone by at the end of January 1. Simultaneously, action was initiated to clear the backing of balancing of books, and there were also similar incentive schemes produced the desired results. In order to complete the audit and bring out the bank's balance sheet quickly, I asked the statutory auditors to commence their work even before the end of the year. This way they would have completed the audit at least for the first 3 quarters of the year and were able to finish the last quarter quickly thereafter. Canara Bank, with headquarters at Bengaluru under their CMD, the late B. Ratnakar, used to be the first among the banks to come out with the annual report and balance sheet. After I took over at Allahabad Bank and until I retired from Bank of India, every year I was able to beat Canara Bank at their game. The Government of India recognized my achievement, and Dr. Bimal Jalan, who was Secretary Banking, had written to me and congratulated the bank for this. Thus, while discipline was improving day by day, the minority union was trying to create problems for management. After a few days, I called the leader of the minority union to my office at about 5 pm. I explained to him that I did not recognize the minority union, but I did recognize his members as members of my staff, and it would be my duty to protect their interest and welfare within the rules of the game. I also gave him a broad hint that I did not tolerate defiance of bank rules and would not hesitate to adopt unfair practice to weed out any troublemakers. I even mentioned a plan about how I could see that he did not go home that evening and would instead go to police custody. This must have scared him because thereafter I did not have any troubles from him or his union. I also made sure I gave him and his members a fair treatment. To increase the popularity of the bank among the citizens, it was decided to participate in the Kolkata Book Fair. People who have worked in the city know how unique the book fair is and how popular it is among the Kolkatans. So he opened an extension counter at the event. This concept was used for the first time among the 3 Kolkata-based banks. It should be mentioned that Allahabad Bank, United Commercial Bank, present-day UCO Bank, and United Bank of India were the 3 Kolkata-based banks. Other than this extension counter at the book fair, we also opened a stall giving publicity to the various services that were available in the bank. In addition, we exhibited coins of various countries and postage stamps. These coins of our own country and those of others, as well as the postage stamps, were all from my own personal collections, which I had from a young age. They became a big attraction and were very much appreciated. The local press were also interested in these items. I learned an important thing from our participation in the book fair. We must involve our staff in the activities of the company for them to feel that they belong to the bank and that the bank belongs to them. Another opportunity presented itself to me. We are having a license to open a branch in Park Street. The bank got very good premises in a building called the White House. If I remember correctly, it was at 119 Park Street. We took a fairly large space on the ground floor, which was at an elevated level as the building had a huge basement for car parking. I thought of utilizing the basement for opening a locker facility, and plans were drawn up to have a facility of about 5,000 lockers. What was special about this was that anyone having a locker could drive in, avail of the facility and get back into his or her car and drive away. In a city that was having a lot of security problems at that time, it was a great relief and welcomed by customers. It became a big hit. To get this branch and the locker segment inaugurated, I had brought both the Chief Minister of West Bengal, the legendary Jyoti Basu, and the Union Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee together. Mr. Pranab Mukherjee recently, on 25th July 2017, laid down his office as the 13th President of India. One was a staunch communist and the other a congressman. This event was unprecedented and never repeated until now, and people still remember it as a historic event. Both the branch and the locker facility became a huge success, and the dignitaries praised the bank and its innovative services. Next day, there were banner headlines in the local newspapers. Just before the opening of this branch, I faced a problem. The foreign department of the bank was functioning from 14 India Exchange Place, which was very close to head office. We in the management felt that it would be prestigious to have the department shifted to be part of the new Park Street branch. Accordingly, space within the branch was carved out and managements were made to accommodate the staff who were transferred there from the existing office. Unfortunately, those staff refused to move out, and I was informed of this decision through their union. Those who at the days were transferring an award staff from the one desk to another within the branch itself was resisted. I did not bother and went ahead. On the day before the opening of the branch, once again the union and the staff met me and asked how I could go ahead shifting the department when they were not willing to move out. I quietly told them that I did not need their approval to shift my department, and if they were not willing to move along with the department, it was left to them. They then asked me how I could run the department, and I replied that they did not need to worry about it. Then they asked, if you shift the department and we do not go there, then what happened to us? I replied that it was not my business. I clarified that after some time a situation may arise when they might be considered as people having no work, would be declared as surplus staff, and might be laid off. This really scared them, and believe me, at 10 the next day all of them were at the new office on time. I was very happy and especially thanked them for their understanding. During those days, it may be recalled that there were too many instances of lapses in security measures in banks. There were numerous armed robberies committed at branches. The Government of India came out with elaborate instructions about the safety measures to be put in place and ensured that those instructions were strictly implemented. These measures still continue to this day. Immediately after I took over at Allahabad Bank, I decided to visit branches unannounced and see for myself the extent to which these measures are effective, and also see for myself that the staff attended office in time and attend to customers properly. As I was new to the bank, many branch managers and their staff would not recognize me, and this helped me to remain unidentified. One day I chose to visit a branch in North Calcutta, and I asked the driver to take me there. About 50 yards from the bank, I asked the driver to stop the car. Got out and walked to the branch and entered the banking hall without getting noticed. The driver remained in the car. After a while, I strayed into the cashier's cabin, whose entry door was not bolted from the within the as per the instructions. I quietly entered the cabin and saw that the cashier was sitting with bundles and bundles of currency on his table. There was a big knife on the table, which they needed to cut string used for bundling the notes. I stood in front of the cashier, who was definitely better built than myself, picked up the knife and threatened the cashier in low voice, "Don't raise your voice. I have come to rob the bank. If you quietly hand over the cash, you can save your life. If you try to even move, I will kill you." The cashier was totally shell-shocked. He meekly surrendered and pushed all the money towards me. After a few moments, I asked the cashier whether I looked like a dacoit and why he was so much afraid. I introduced myself properly to him and said that he could have avoided all this drama if he had followed the instructions to keep the cabin door locked from within. He agreed and assured that he would never repeat this mistake. The net result was that even before I could get back to my office, the news of my visit to the branch and all the drama that happened that spread in the city like wildfire. Taking a cue from this, regional managers also started paying surprise visits to branches. This helped to sort out the administration much faster than any circulars could. In December 1983, All India Congress Committee held its 77th session in Kolkata. Indira Gandhi was the Congress president. Rajiv Gandhi had entered politics to assist his mother after the sudden passing away of his brother Sanjay Gandhi. The session was held in Netaji Indoor Stadium, which was also within walking distance of the bank, and we wanted to make our presence felt at this huge congregation. Because this bank was founded in Allahabad and was one of the earliest to be established, it had the prestige of having the accounts of great personalities, including Pandit Motilal Nehru, Madan Mohan Malviya, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, and many leaders of India's freedom movement. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's last will and testament is still considered to be a piece of English literature and a historic document of the Congress movement. He had deposited it with Allahabad Bank in Allahabad to be kept as a depository, and the bank also had a copy of it in its records. I brought it from Allahabad and arranged to have it photographically enlarged, got it beautifully framed in glass, and erected a stand at the entrance of the session in such a manner that no one could miss to see it. I was waiting at the site for Rajiv Gandhi to come, and when he did, I escorted him to the place where this last will was displayed. He went through the document and was mighty pleased. He congratulated me for this thoughtful idea. While moving on, he told me to meet him in Delhi when I went there next. So on my next visit to Delhi, I duly called on him. After a couple of minutes of the meeting, I informed him that our bank had the unique privilege of having the personal accounts of his mother, grandfather, and great grandfather. He jocularly asked, "So you want my account?" I timidly replied, "No, sir, I want Rahul's accounts also." He laughed, called his assistant Rajan, and told him, "Srinivasan wants my and Rahul's account to be opened with this bank. See what can be done." Rahul Gandhi is the son of Rajiv and is now the president of Congress party. Around this time, an instance occurred in Allahabad at our main branch. After operating her locker, a lady customer left the branch premises, forgetting to put back a bundle of jewels that she had absent-mindedly left behind on a table. The next visitor brought this to the notice of the branch manager, and he was able to identify that the bundle belonged to that earlier lady visitor. He called head office and asked what was to be done. We instructed him to return it to the lady, but as a matter of caution, he should take an indemnity from her that the bundle did indeed belong to her. The lady contacted her husband in Delhi, who advised her not to give any such indemnity. God knows why he advised her like that. Any guesses? The lady in question was the wife of a former finance minister hailing from Allahabad. The bank's officers association had a general secretary whom I had never met before, but he was always critical at the bank and at the management. He was in the habit of issuing circulars, many of which were very abusive and slanderous. He took advantage of the incident described above and came out with yet another circular highlighting the serious lapse of our security at our Allahabad branch. He went to the extent of saying that nothing was safe in the bank, not even the safe deposit locker. I really wanted to deal with him strongly. During one of my visits to Delhi, I spoke to the boss and explained the situation, and he asked me what I wanted to do. I said that I would like to get rid of this person. He said, "Okay, go ahead." When I next met the boss after a couple of months, he asked me whether I had done what I wanted to do. I replied that I was waiting for the balance sheet work, which was in progress, and as soon as it was over, I would take action. At this stage of this narration, I must inform the readers that the officers of the bank were governed by the service regulation that was in force and followed the guidelines of the Bank of the Government of India. The entire banking industry was persuaded by the government to weed out dead wood from among their staff. What was meant by this was to review the cases of officers who have either completed 30 years of service or were 55 years of age, and if they were found fit for compulsory retiring from service, the bank should do so. Allahabad Bank also had a system by which persons who have completed 50 years of age can be retired or given an extension of 1 year at a time for two such extensions. That is either retire at 58 or 59 or 60 at the discretion of the management. There was a special committee in place to review such cases and give their recommendations to the CMD, who was the competent authority to take a decision on the matter. Although this provision was in the rules book, the bank had been following a magnanimous policy of automatically giving extension to staff till they reached 60 years of age. This resulted in a vast number of officers at the age group of 50 or 60 who were on the rolls of the bank but whose productivity had reached rock bottom. They were only adding to the cost of the bank but with no resultant benefit. I decided to make use of this rule and get rid of the people who were of little use to the company. In the first year, I took the help of one Mr. Jai Govind Rai, who was popular among the staff because of his seniority. He was 58 at the time. To serve on the committee to review the cases of those who could get an extension or be compulsorily retired. I gave him 1 year extension, and so he willingly joined the committee to scrutinize cases and recommend either for extension or premature retirement. With his help and understanding, we got rid of dozens of officers. In the second year, we had another committee without Mr. Rai, and they helped me to deny another extension to Jai Govind Rai, while who could not protest because he was taking the same medicine he had prescribed for others. Some were happy that he was testing his own medicine. Although he was popular, no one raised a voice against because of his helping the management in the previous year to retire so many officers. We used this rule very effectively, which really helped in toning up the administration. In March 1984, a special committee was constituted to review the cases of 20 officers, including the General Secretary of Allahabad Bank Officers Association and ICOBO, referred to above. The special committee unanimously recommended the compulsory retirement of the General Secretary. I, as the competent authority, accepted the recommendation and on May 18, 1984, compulsorily retired him from the bank services. This order was given effect to on May 24, 1984. He was stationed in Jabalpur. I deputed the Assistant General Manager, Personnel, a Mr. M.R. Sarvadhikari, to get this done on a Saturday in the closing hours of the bank. He went to Jabalpur under the pretext of discussing some staff matters with prior request to the General Secretary to remain in office. Mr. Sarvadhikari went well prepared with 3 months' salary and a letter compulsorily discharging the officers, citing the reason that the special committee was one of the unanimous view that his services were no longer required in the bank. This was an unexpected shock to the officers concerned, who was under the impression that no one would dare to deal with him in such a manner. The entire staff of the bank resorted to indefinite direct action from Monday and observed a strike. The agitation was countrywide. In Kolkata, it was a strike covering all banks, as the person was also the president of the All India Confederation of Bank Officers Organization. The strike in that city lasted for only 2 days. How the strike, which turned out a bit violent on day one, unfolded and how it ended in a totally unexpected manner on the second day needs to be explained, which I will do separately. The strike, its course, and its sudden collapse were dramatic, with enormous consequences to the bank and to India's banking industry. The General Secretary who was compulsorily retired was Mr. Dayal Das Khanna. He was scale 3 officers stationed in Jabalpur. He was very uncompromising and never realized that he was causing damage to the institutions that gave him his status in life. Yet he had his own principles, which I admired. The indefinite strike called on by the ICOBO paralyzed not only banking operations in the country but it even brought the traffic to a standstill in Kolkata. The head office of the bank is in Dalhousie Square, just opposite the RBI and very close to the Writers' Building, which is where the Chief Minister and the other ministers of the West Bengal government had their offices. The General Post Office was also in close vicinity. The strike took place in the season when Kolkata normally gets its rains. In the morning when I went to office, I could see a mammoth crowd in front of the building shouting slogans and condemning the action of the bank management in terminating the services of the General Secretary of their association. I must acknowledge the courtesy they showed me in spite of the volatile situation. I tried to enter the building and pleaded with the crowd that I was not on strike and it was my duty to go inside and report to the government that there was a strike at the bank. Nobody listened. There was an impregnable wall of humanity that could not be broken, and I could not enter. I did not give up and tried to push my way in. Someone in the crowd, that also consisted of employees of other banks, hit me on my head with his umbrella. I sustained a wound caused by the attack, and my spectacles fell off and broke. I failed in my attempt to enter the office. Instead of going back home, I walked to the office of the Chief Minister Jyoti Basu. I explained the situation to him and showed him my broken specs. After a patient hearing, he told me to go home and that he would ask the police to see that I got into the office the next day. But the next day when I reached the office, I found the crowd outside the bank building was much larger than on the previous day. There were intermittent showers. As assured by the Chief Minister, there were two vans with policemen armed with lathis and tear gas shells, and an Assistant Commissioner of Police was in charge of the many police officers gathered there. That day I was stopped a bit further away than on the previous day. When I proceeded towards the bank, the employees who were the building and they all started lying down on the road and told me that I can peacefully go inside if I could walk over their bodies. The situation was turning very tense. Suddenly I also went down on the road and was lying with other employees. Seeing this, the Assistant Commissioner of Police came over and asked me to get up. He told me that my suit that I was wearing had been spoiled due to the dirt of the road coupled with rain. I did not mind that. Next, he asked me that he could make way for me to go inside if that was what I wanted. I said that it was, but that time dozens of employees surrounded us. The Assistant Commissioner of Police was asking me whether I would like him to order a lathi charge or create a way for me to enter the bank. I told the AC that they were three at the instance of the Chief Minister and therefore I was not the right person to give them an instruction as to what they should do. But I made a request in a firm voice. I told him that in case he decided to proceed with lathi charge, my only request was that the first lathi should fall on my head and not touch any of my colleagues. I said that they were striking for a cause, although maybe without knowing the facts of the case. Today the police would do lathi charge and then go away. But tomorrow I had to work with the same people, so I therefore requested that the police did not harm any of my staff. The moment the people around me heard that I was telling the police, they shouted in Bengali language, "Ye hamare chairman ache. He is our chairman. Hey Dada, hey Dablao, get tender coconut for our chairman. Bring an umbrella for our chairman. He is getting drenched in the rain." Saying this, three or four of the crowd bodily lifted me and took me to the gates of the bank's entrance. It was unbelievable. At the very moment the strike came to an unceremonious end. I could not believe that was happening and the sudden turn of events. Allahabad Bank Officers Association, espousing the cause of their General Secretary, filed a writ petition in Madhya Pradesh High Court, which was dismissed. They subsequently went to the Supreme Court, which was also finally dismissed on May 1, 1996. This became a sensational case throughout the banking industry. After Dayal Das Khanna filed a writ petition in Madhya Pradesh High Court against this termination, which he and his association called illegal, and subsequently lost it on a day when he visited the head office of the bank, I called him to my room. I welcomed him with an embrace as I was emotional to see him in that state. I told him that I was genuinely sorry that I had to be the cause of his misery. I explained to him that I had no other choice given his defiant and recalcitrant attitude and his activities which were to be detriment of the bank's progress. He did not dispute my statement. I told him that I would be able to procure for him financial support by getting him a decent job for the same salary that he was receiving at the time of his departure from the bank. He said that he did not want any favor from me and that he would fight me legally. Alternatively, I told him that I could not get his son employed on a decent salary. He refused that offer also and repeated that he had not come to see me to seek any favor. He appreciated his principled stand. Of course, he continued to seek legal remedy that he never got. With the distance of time, I really do not know what happened to him thereafter. The chapter Allahabad Bank, Kolkata will be continued. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, subscribe and share.